Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Hello everyone, welcome back to Lessons for Life, Blast from the Past. We're going to have a flashback now. Tonight I was just chatting with Pavlov of Speaker's Corner fame and a couple of other chaps that he'd set up on a live call, and we were trying to replicate Speaker's Corner because of course Speaker's Corner is not happening at the moment because of the lockdown, and Speaker's Corner hasn't been happening for me for about the best part of a year now. I just decided that it wasn't worth pitching up there on a Sunday anymore because there were lots of things that I didn't like about it. But the few things I did like about it do come back to me sometimes, and people like Pavlov, I think, really do make Speaker's Corner worth a visit. And Pavlov on his channel has set up a virtual Speaker's Corner. So I thought I would do a bit of Speaker's Corner tonight and just let anyone on air talk about anything they want. And the first caller is live right now. Who's this?
How you doing, mate? It's Jody here.
Hello, Jody.
Just wanted to go to Speaker's Corner.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be disrespectful to it,
But
it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a Speaker's Corner. It's not a listener's corner, really.
no.
I used to go quite often, and I'll be honest with you, there are so many people just trying to shout their point across
Yeah.
that it ends up not being a discussion. It ends up being a battle of egos, and it's something that I stopped going. First, I went to try and learn about something, but no one actually has a conversation. It's just speaking to people.
Well, it's not exactly Bang & Olufsen, is it?
Well,
It's more Casio or some of the cheaper speakers.
Alba.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's not.
But really,
Yeah.
I think it's great. I mean, Speaker's Corner's been going for at least 5 years.
Yeah.
I think 100 odd. And it's a great concept to give people the platform to be able to speak about what they want. I think that's great, and it's a wonderful thing about our country. However, without listening, you don't have a conversation. You have a monversation.
Yes, exactly.
Mono-conversation.
Monologue.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what puts me off.
It's good, but you have people who share their different views. Some people, I think, go down there for ego. Some people genuinely go down to spread the message about King Umbulu. Who maybe is taking over the world. And
Alumba. You
Alumba, for example. Now, I'm not to say whether Alumba is rightly who they claim to be or not. You know, and it's not my business. But I think when people aren't listening, it's just a shame, Julian.
It is a shame. Well, we're glad to have you listening and calling, even better.
Well, absolutely. What's your weirdest thing you've heard down there?
The weirdest thing I've heard, as I was saying the other night, down there, normal opinions are weird. If you met someone who said, I'm a sort of middle of the road guy, not really one way or the other, that would be weird. Over there, people, it just attracts extremists. So if you come away from there thinking that all Muslims are extremists, all Christians hate Muslims, and anyone who wears a crown thinks the earth's flat.
Yeah, true.
It's just a strange cross-section of society. Not even a cross-section, it's like a bit at the extreme section.
Well, a lot of them are cross.
Exactly.
As I say, in theory, I think it's a wonderful idea. I think it's great that people will come together, they will talk, but I wonder if you should, and hear me out on this one, it might sound a little bit crazy, maybe it should be down to Speaker's Corner, should people have to collect points of listening, to be able to go and speak?
That would be an interesting system.
You've proved that you've listened, or if you're not listening, then that's it. Because a lot of the debates are just debates for the sake of debates and trying to prove you're wrong. Someone will say, aha, you say this, but what about that? Then, like politicians arguing, you end up...
And you know what? I think I'm feeling a bit bad now, because there actually were more people like Pavlov who did go there for the chat, for the conversation. But what's more memorable? someone having a normal conversation or a lunatic shouting the earth's flat. We kind of have a skewed memory of things, and especially when it comes to, if you've only ever watched it on YouTube, the videos that get the hits are the videos with the more extreme. And that's the problem. The people with extreme views have the loudest voice, because we don't have that system that you were talking about. I don't know how that would work, but it's a good idea.
No, this is very true. Actually, to be fair, yeah, there have been some normal people down there, but it seems like generally, and not always the case, but the more crazy you are, the louder your voice.
Yeah.
You know, the taller your stepladder, and you'll just, or the taller you are, perhaps.
Yeah.
Where you'll just shout across your points. What doesn't help is that there's sometimes a crowd of people who try and goad the speaker.
Yeah.
Or against the speaker, who just try and overpower him. So,
yeah.
A true discussion, a real discussion about theology and trying to understand each other, I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
A discussion about, science or the world or different philosophies, yeah, I'm excited about that. But it's got to be done, I think, with a certain humility, and only with humility do you grow and understand the bigger picture, I'd say.
Humility. There's a good word.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll take that. Toby, thank you very much.
Was
it Toby or Jody?
Jody.
Sorry. Okay. Well, look, call us again, won't you?
I will take Toby, though, either way. Yeah.
That'll
fine.
do.
If I went to Speaker's Corner, my name would end up being Troby. Who knows? Yeah. Thank you very much, Julian. Always a
You're
pleasure.
welcome. Thank you very much.
Even though I've just spoken at you, complaining about people who just spoke and don't listen. But yes.
That was a monologue from Toby or Troby, someone. Thank you.
Take care, buddy.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, very much mixed feelings about Speaker's Corner. I do miss it, but I do think there was a lot of problems with it as well. Maybe we need a new format. Maybe Pavlov's online version of it will take off. I'm going to get you the exact name. Pavlovian Response is the channel that you need to find. If you subscribe to Pavlovian Response, you'll be able to find Pavlov on there and a couple of other characters from Speaker's Corner. Tonight I was on there with a couple of guys who would seem to be, as they describe themselves, centre-right, and we debated a lot of different things. And I sort of, in recent times, I've stayed away from politics on this channel. I've not wanted this channel to be a political channel, so it was nice to have a different sort of avenue, somewhere else to vent. We've all got places where we go where we become sort of a different character, if you like, and you can really sort of let loose. So I appreciated Pavlov giving me that opportunity to sound off without having to feel like I'm an ambassador for Lessons for Life, although I did put my name as Lessons for Life in the chat. And in the chat, Dardasha is saying, it does affect you after all. Negative views can have a bad impact. There were a few who were sensible to speak and listen, like you, Lessons for Life. Oh, thank you, Dardasha. You're so biased in my favour, but I appreciate it. Yeah, no, there were, and I keep saying I shouldn't have a skewed memory of what it was. I'm acting as if it's something of the past. I hope it isn't. In the chat, Oneness has said, I think this is the end of Speaker's Corner. Well, look, Winston Churchill said this is not the end. It's not even, what did he say? It's not the beginning, it's not the end, but it may be the end of the beginning. So maybe, I mean, I don't know how long this lockdown will go on for, but if it is long term, Speaker's Corner will evolve. And we'll be doing it online just like we're doing everything else. But if anyone else wants to get involved, this is your virtual Speaker's Corner for the night. 07491 751 203. Put +44 if you're calling from outside the UK. And yeah, you can say whatever you want, and I promise I will listen. And the chat we had earlier on that you can catch on Pavlov's channel, as I say, it was very political, and it's been a while since I've vented politically. If you've followed the channel for a long time, you'll know there are issues that I'm passionate about, and as much as I always try to listen carefully when other people were speaking to me. I would speak passionately when arguing my case. And tonight it was kind of, I felt like, I'd dusted the gloves off again and got my teeth into a little bit of a debate, and we were back and forth, and Pavlov was very sort of neutral, and it was a bit of 2-on-1 against me, and we had the exchange without any disrespect, without any anger. But you can be firm and enthusiastic and passionate without resorting to swearing and violence and aggression, and that's really the beauty of what Speaker's Corner could be. Dardasha saying people will have so much to say after this, and I'm not going to read those words because those words could get my video taken down, even if you don't believe in it. And freedom of speech is a whole other factor and concept that we're going to have to talk about after this, because people like our friend David, who is not that David, but Mr. Ike, is dismissed as a conspiracy theorist, has had videos pulled down just for espousing a different theory about what's going on. Now, I don't agree with his theory, but I don't think that he should be censored. If we have logical argument, isn't that a better way? If you start censoring someone because of what they're saying, people will say, "Oh, what are you trying to hide? Are you trying to hide the truth?" You actually end up giving more credence to the crazy theory. So I don't know. It's a crazy time. Things are changing. Maybe you need to not panic people with mad conspiracy theories. But if anyone else, and the other issue that I wanted to bring up, and this is to do with the conversation I had with Pavlov tonight, and something that came up when I was talking to Brian the other night when we were talking about remembering the Easter Rising, and I was drawing parallels between the liberation struggle in Ireland and the events in Palestine. Here we go, we're going political now. The cat's out of the bag. And Andre McIntyre in the comments that night was kind of making this might is right argument, and Brian and I were criticising the crimes of the British Empire and praising Britain for the good that it's done. Brian was very balanced to make that point, but we were calling out the crimes of the British Empire, and Andre McIntyre weighed in, Irish name that he has, and said, the only people that have a problem with the British Empire are the conquered. So I'm just wondering, is might right? And the parallel in the conversation that I had tonight with the two gentlemen expressing themselves being very much pro-Israeli, and not out of any affection for the country, but from what I sensed was a hatred or distrust of their enemies, and they were making statements such as, "Oh, well, who would you rather have in charge of the West Bank? The Israeli government or the Palestinians?" And I could sense they were contrasting these two entities as kind of a better and a lesser civilization. That was me reading between the lines. They seem to be suggesting that the Israeli state was a more advanced society than the others. And my argument to that was, fine, if you've conquered the whole of the land, then extend the human rights that you were praising within the state to all the people in the land that you've conquered. Extend them the right of citizenship. And that's not what is happening there. And we kind of we debated it back and forth, and it seemed to be that the bottom line for them was might is right. It might not be pretty, you might not like it if it happened to you, but if one country conquers another country, then fair enough. Let them get on with it. Which reminds me of what Andre McIntyre was saying when Britain conquered Ireland. The onus was on the Irish to rise up and resist and fight back, and they did, and they won their freedom. And the final blow that was struck for freedom began in Easter time in 1916, and the War of Independence and the Republic of, well, it wasn't even a republic until 1949. The Irish Free State that came into being was in 1922. But for some people, and Brian would be of that opinion, this was not enough, and the status quo is not enough. He and I hope for a united Ireland in the future. And that's what I hope for in the region between the River Jordan and the Mediterranean Sea, in Israel-Palestine. If it's all being administrated or ruled by one entity, why not just have one man, one woman, one vote, and you can call it Israel-Palestine or Palestine-Israel. And in the chat, Safes Clark is saying hello all. Hello. Good evening. So look, if anyone else wants to take me up on the debate of might is right, you can tell me. It could be a yes or no question. It's a bit of an informal one tonight. A bit of have your say, a bit of speaker's corner away from Hyde Park on a Tuesday night. We're all a bit out of sync, and I've been doing these live streams every night now at 10 p.m. How long I'll keep it up, I don't know. But I appreciate the people that are getting involved and interacting with it. And again, as I always say, if you haven't subscribed already, what's wrong with you? Subscribe, like, share, comment, blah blah blah. Give it a big fat like if you can. And yeah, we can talk about anything you want. It's freedom of speech on the airwaves tonight. Phone me up and give me your craziest opinion. Someone did ask me what was the craziest opinion that I've encountered in Speaker's Corner, and it would be more crazy to meet someone with a normal opinion. It didn't really happen much. That one a lot. We hear the Earth is flat, and I remember when YouTube began censoring videos that suggest the Earth is flat, and I did regret that because I thought it kind of lends credence to their argument. But we got a call. I'm hoping we're going to find out whether might is right. Andre, are you there?
Yeah, am I live?
You're live to the nation. Are you happy to be live?
I don't understand what's going on because I'm watching you on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I've just tried to call into you, but I'm watching you on TV and it sounds, I don't know what's going on.
What's the issue?
You sent me a link.
Yeah. There's a delay. The delay might be confusing you. Oh, and we've got Pavlov in the chat. Hello, Pavlov. I was just sharing and praising your channel and saying what a great tear-up I had on there tonight and that I miss it. Andre, in the chat we've got Pavlov, who arranged a debate for me to have earlier on, and the gentlemen in question were arguing the Israeli side, which, as you know, really gets my goat. And I think it was on the logic that might is right, and it reminded me of you saying the only people that have a problem with the British Empire are those that were conquered by the British Empire. Have we lost Andre? Andre? Mr. McIntyre, are you there?
Yeah, it's a bad signal, mate.
It's a bad signal. Look,
on normal line.
call me on this number though. It's the number on the screen: 07491 751 203. You need to call me on that number and you'll get through, and we'll talk might is right.
Let me call you back.
All right, no problem.
Sorry, viewers.
No problem. Yeah, get through on that number and you'll be fine. Yeah. In the chat, Pavlovian Response is going to share the video that went live earlier tonight, and I have to say it was good. It was good fun. It was good fun to be debating again. Sponsorship. And Pavlov sort of stayed out of it. He was refereeing it. He was being very sort of impartial, and I appreciate that. We might have Andre. Are you there?
I'm here.
Right. Okay. Hopefully this is better.
Yeah.
We're saying might is right.
Okay.
Israel conquered the West Bank and Gaza, therefore they can do what the hell they want there. For example.
Right. You want my opinion on that?
Well, we can go more loosely if you want. Why did you say the only people that have a problem with the British Empire are the conquered? And I think you said it meaning that it kind of, well, it seemed like you said serves them right. Weaker people.
You know what it is, Jules? I've got a double view. It's not that I don't fully agree with might is right.
Okay.
It's not about might is right. It's about might I understand.
Okay.
There's a difference.
Okay.
It's not might is right. Might I understand.
Okay. So it doesn't justify it, but it explains it.
To be fair.
Yeah.
To be fair, I don't see what the hell is the problem with what I just said. Might I understand? In fact, if anybody can't understand that after 50 million years, something's wrong with us, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yes. As I say, it could maybe not justify it, but it explains it. But with things like empire, have we not evolved to be better? Do we not now know it's wrong? I know George Washington kept slaves, or Abraham Lincoln, rather, but we now know it's wrong. We can't judge history by modern standards, but we can strive for better standards now. And if the West Bank and Gaza are occupied tonight, we can strive to liberate them and say we don't do that anymore, just as we don't keep slaves anymore, just as we don't beat children or women or anyone, hopefully. We do not use violence unless it is in self-defense.
Well, what you just said there is a lie.
Go on. Why is that?
Well, for a start, you said just like we've evolved to know that slaves are wrong. That's a lie because Libyans have slaves now.
Yes, and that's wrong. And they should not. And it's a shame. And they didn't when Colonel Gaddafi was there. But yes, you're right. There is slavery alive in Libya right now.
Right. You're saying your point is, have we not evolved? Your point was, have we not evolved to know that it's wrong? And the answer is, I haven't. That's why I laughed, because clearly we haven't. We haven't evolved to know anything. We may have a little thought process in the back of our head, but it doesn't mean that we've evolved to understand that that's wrong.
Okay, is slavery wrong?
Of course it is.
How do you know that?
Well, I'm saying it's wrong based on humanity, and the humanity side of me says it's wrong. My attachment to Mother Earth tells me it's wrong.
Okay.
However, like I said to you, might I understand?
Okay.
Because I've been raised in it. You know, I was raised in it. Your grandparents was raised in it. Your great was raised in it. So at the end of the day, what era are you going? What era are you talking about to turn out to say that might is not right or might is not that you don't understand? Might is the way it is, right? It's not, you know. And if I remember rightly, the only people who wasn't guilty of conquest was probably Adam and Eve.
Okay, well, they ate the fruit from the tree. They should have known better. But isn't it not the case that compassion is right? And just as much as things have been achieved by conquest and great empires, actually societies that evolved, I'll use the word again, to
You
look
just-
after each other went on to thrive.
What did you just say, Jules? Say that again. You
Sorry.
said, is it not? Well, compassion,
Compassion
is right.
is right. We
Well,
have,
of course it's right. Of
what's
course it's right.
and is it also not successful? Do not the societies that look after each other do better than the every man for himself barbaric societies?
Well, it depends on how you judge successful, because we are infested, we are saturated with the view of conquest. So where are you drawing on to say that compassion and societies that look after work? Because clearly they don't, because they end up getting conquered. So I don't know where you're getting that from.
Well, for example, people have highlighted Sweden as having quite a left-wing economy, left-wing policies, state-funded education, and so on and so forth.
Sweden was an empire.
What's that?
Sweden was a major was a major player in the Napoleonic Wars and prior to that.
Was it the Vikings? Who did
No.
Sweden conquer? And we've got someone in Sweden in the chat. BA is saying communist China does not like the Anglo-white British. They have been building and preparing to avenge what the British did to them during the First World War. Interesting.
No, forget the First World War. He's way out of date.
During the war.
Forget the First World War. Right, it's not about China's got an issue with them from the First World War. China's got a problem with them since the Opium Wars.
Okay.
It's beyond that.
What was Sweden doing in the Napoleonic Wars? Because I don't know enough about this. I might learn something tonight. What were they involved?
From memory, it's something I need to brush up on.
Okay, no problem. But apparently they were involved.
If I remember rightly, from my knowledge in history, Sweden was a major power in when it came to the 1700s, 1800s, 1600s, even with their military might, and I believe they conquered Poland.
Okay. Well, BA is crying into his dinner. He's saying that's the point. That's the point I was going to get at. Give me a chance. Give him a chance, Andre. And Pavlo saying it has nothing to do with revenge. They are building up to achieve power on the back of their own people. And Jordan M is in the chat. Hello, Jordan M. We'll come to you in a minute. I hope you're well.
The person who said, "Oh, China's got a problem with us since World War One," I'm actually inadvertently agreeing with him. But it's not from World War One. I'm saying they've had a problem with them since the Opium Wars.
Wow.
Since England saturated them with opium, and since England took away Hong Kong from them, they've always had an issue.
Okay.
Why do you think they're all over China? Because they know this small nation of England has conquered the world and managed to maintain power over the world because of their kitchen garden being Africa.
So China are heavily immersed in Africa.
I don't know. I can't remember what the last count of millions of Chinese are doing in Africa right about now, but it's a lot. And whoever controls Africa conquers the world.
So look, China are controlling Africa, as you mentioned. They have a huge population. They produce a hell of a lot of stuff. Are they going to dominate the world? If your theory of might is right, as in might works, are we to expect China to take the lead in the next few decades?
They already are dominating the world.
Fair enough. I can't argue with that.
Just because we're not seeing tanks and planes and ships all over the sea, like how we like to pose it off. Just because you don't see it like that doesn't mean that they're not dominating the world. Does not the Rothschild and whoever else family dominate the world, but you don't see their face all over the TV?
Well, I can't comment on that because I don't think it's true. Jordan M is saying Africa is in huge debt to China, illegally, I would argue, And Pavlov is saying, he wants to speak to Jordan M. I can't blame him. He's well worth a chat. I just want to talk about China's economy for a minute, Andre. Doesn't China have a very left-wing economy, anarcho, or what do they call it? State capitalism, but it would be very much geared towards giving poor people a leg up. It's not capitalism in the way that we have it. It's not might is right for the Chinese citizens themselves. It's very much equality for Chinese people in China, but might is right internationally. And the only reason that China has grown so strong might be because it has that type of economy.
Have you ever played poker?
I can't say I have.
Poker is exactly, I would say, the protocol which China is now using worldwide. In the sense of,
are they bluffing?
Well, they're not bluffing. They're bullying.
Okay.
They're bullying us via business, but with a handshake instead of an AK-47.
Okay, interesting. So, BA in the chat.
I bully the poker table because I have more chips than everybody else.
Yeah. Well, when the chips are down. In the chat, BA is saying Sweden has developed because they mind their own business. They didn't get involved in any world wars, apart from the Napoleonic War, apparently. Scandinavia was previously known as a raiding regime with the Vikings. Yeah, they were Vikings, weren't they? But was that Vikings raiding other countries and then bringing stuff back to Scandinavia? Or did they conquer Scandinavia?
They were thieves like everybody else.
Like everybody else. That's often what a thief will say. I'm just a thief like everyone else. I was just following orders.
Look, the truth of the matter is the world is conquest. The world is what it is. I apologise for even saying they're just like thieves like everybody else as well.
That's
Because it makes it sound like, you know, I'm going down the route of I hate people that turn around and say Britain was thieves or America was thieves or France are thieves. I don't like people saying that because I'm trying to get a gear away to that, because every king that became mighty, in theory, became mighty through conquest. Alexander the Great, whoever else. You can't, I don't believe theft goes hand in hand with that. There's only two ways to look at the world. One way is the Bible way, or the religious way of, you know, look, break bread with your enemy, break bread with your enemy, and you know, look after one another, which is the way God has ordained it for us to be. Right? Now, if you're on that path, then all what you're saying now about might is right, etc., is wrong. Or you can go the way which the world actually is, in reality, in real time, which is might, in their eyes, is right. And conquest, it's all about conquest. And, you know, there is no, Africa, for example, is under the control of the West and under the control of China, for the simple reason being what do you call it? Sorry, I'm being distracted.
That's all right.
Any success that they will achieve, or any freedom that they will achieve, has come through negotiation. And if you're going to sit down and negotiate with the enemy, then it is not total victory. There is no absolute victory, so there is no absolute freedom. Do you understand? The only way to achieve total freedom is through war, and because through war, it's unconditional surrender. And we've seen that with Vietnam, we've seen that with China, we've seen that with England to a degree. You saw that in French after the French Revolution. They ousted certain things. I'm not saying the country hasn't reverted back, to some sort of what's the word, to democratic dictatorship, if that's the right way. It's a mixture of the two. But the fact is you need to fight for your rights, because that's the only way you're going to get absolute success.
Okay. And is all fair in love and war? Does anything go, or should we have rules of engagement?
Well, you're talking to a TIE fighter, and
There's not a lot of rules in TIE fighting, but there are some.
Well, there is, but how we train and how we fight is two different things. How we fight in the ring and how we train is two different things, Jules. Right? I kick my students in the nuts when we're in the middle of a training, and if I kick them, and if they're throwing a kick and I throw a kick and they fall on the floor, I follow through with the knee to the head.
Okay.
Right? Obviously, I don't throw it because it's training. I don't throw it out full pelt, but I do the motion for them to realise that you don't beg a referee for help. Do you understand? You cover up yourself regardless of what situation is.
That's how you build a warrior.
That's how you build a warrior. Ask no quarter given.
Okay.
If we get kicked in the nuts in a ring fight, straying off the point, but it's relevant to this. But if you get kicked in the nuts in a ring fight, you pull back from that fighter to a safe rep. Then you look at the referee and say, "Ref, he's low blowing." You don't scream out in the middle of the fight.
Yeah, that's right.
You make sure that you're in a neutral situation for you to be able to say that. And
that's right.
So to answer your question about is all fair in love and war, I would like to show my human side by being, if I was a general, by taking prisoners of war, you don't kill them, like what was going on in Bosnia and all the rest of it. I would like to show my gentleman side, right? Yeah. But I don't expect my gentleman side back.
Okay.
I don't expect the enemy to act like a gentleman back. If he does, I respect him for it. But if he doesn't, no problem.
Do you remember off at a tangent, in one of the Batman films, the Joker, he plants bombs in two ships that are either side of each other, and he tells them, you can shoot the other one. They both got the power to annihilate each other, and if they don't, the other one will. I've butchered the explanation of this, but it's sort of like both sides have the power to annihilate the other side, so should you preemptively annihilate the other side just in case they choose to annihilate you? What's the right decision? Because this comes down to your split personality dilemma here. You've got your gentleman side and your warrior side, and it sounds like you're struggling to tie them up together. To me, it sounds like the right thing to do is not to kill anyone, but is the safe thing to do, or the natural instinct is to preserve your own survival. And to do that, you might have to kill someone.
Because in the scenario I was talking about...
It's the Dark Knight, Pavlov's telling me. Thank you, Pavlov. You probably would have explained it better than I did.
Not in the scenario that I'm talking about, because in the scenario I'm talking about I'm in the middle of a war with the enemy, and it's a situation that I've managed to win a battle or whatever, and I've captured the enemy. I would show them my human side. I would take prisoners. That's what I'm saying. But yet, if I lost a battle to the enemy, I don't expect them to take prisoners.
Okay, so you would be better than your enemy then?
I would try to be. Look, what is the reasoning for war at the end of the day? Is it not conquest, right, of some sort? Right, so there's going to come... This is the problem where I always say generals should never rule a country, in peacetime, because they don't understand politics. When the time, in history, it seems as if many of them don't understand politics. I would say 90% don't. What's the point? There's going to come a time when the war is over and you need to unify these people. Now, if you're going to unify these people, vengeance is best eaten cold. You need to get rid of you need to get rid of that trait. And the best way to do it is to unify the people with love, right? Allowing your enemy to remember the fact that you took them prisoner and showed them hospitality, right, is a major thing. You can't keep killing and wiping out people, you know. Otherwise, all you're going to do is take over land with no one to rule.
Mm-hmm. Well, you could subjugate the people that you've conquered.
I don't agree with that.
And not give them citizenship.
I don't agree with that. We've had this discussion
Yes,
before.
I know you do. I know you do. I'm just throwing a call back to the conversation.
This is my only issue with British. This is my only issue with the British. Well, it's not my only issue. I've got many issues, but with the British Empire, that is one of my issues. It's your duty once you've subjugated people and you've conquered people, but you've got a duty to amalgamate them into society, right, and treat them with respect. I don't believe in a second citizenship situation.
Okay.
You know.
And to what extent, and we said on the call with Brian that the British Empire did some good and some bad. I'm sure that we could name...
In the past, I haven't heard the conversation prior to that. I was a little bit busy. So.
No, when I interviewed Brian about the Easter Rising and the Irish struggle for freedom, and you mentioned about the British Empire, I'm just saying we said that the British Empire did some good and some bad. It's important to mention both. For example, the way that the Caribbean people were treated, having been British citizens because they were part of the British Empire, having been invited to work in Britain when there was a requirement for labour. I'm talking, of course, about the Windrush generation, and then being betrayed and deprived of citizenship years later.
Well, as far as humanity is concerned, that's wrong, isn't it?
Of course it is.
I don't moan about it.
You would rather fight back, get on with your life? Why don't you moan about it if it's wrong?
I don't moan about it because we're conquered peoples.
Even though the British government themselves apologised for it, so they acknowledged that it was wrong.
I accept the apology because it was wrong as far as human.
Okay.
We all have a duty to be inhuman, don't we? We all have a duty to be humane, right? Yeah, and this is my whole point. You know, the Caribbean has accepted, right? People may turn around and say, no, the Caribbean hasn't accepted, but they have accepted that they are part of the British Empire. They're a colonized nation lands, and they've accepted to come under the rule of the British government. So therefore, they are British citizens, and the government does have a right to have an obligation to look after them.
Okay.
All right. Now, on that basis, they're wrong. So, of course, we'd accept the apology. But what I'm saying is, ask no quarter given, right? We're conquered peoples, and on that basis, we have to accept whatever's coming. And if you don't like what I just said, as a conquered person, e.g. Irish, Caribbean, whoever, Australian, whoever, if you don't like the African, if you don't like the fact that you've been conquered, then it's your duty to fight for your independence, just like Vietnam did against the French, just like Vietnam did against the Americans.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is the duty of those that...
I'm going to say it online. Yeah. I have a lot of respect for the IRA.
Okay. Thanks for saying that online. I take the sentiment, and look, the IRA that fought in 1916 are not what we talk about now, and the IRA is split into many different factions. It's almost hard to keep track of.
But in the past,
yeah,
the war, during the Troubles, etc., and the unification, yesterday's terrorist is today's hero. They unified that place. They managed to get it to some degree their independence. And I agree that if a set of people have been conquered, right, and are not being treated as equals, then it's common sense to fight for independence.
To rise up, and you would rather that than complain or write petitions or whatever else.
No, what I'm saying is it's up to the people as a collective. You either accept. All right, let's take Britain for example. the Caribbean and African nations need to accept that they are Commonwealth nations. Right? Accept it, support it. However, if you're not being treated correctly by the British Empire, then it's your common sense says you owe it to your children's children's children to fight for independence. It's as simple as that. You know, I don't see what's so hard for people to understand. If you're going to keep kicking me in my nuts and smacking me in my face, right, what am I going to do? Either I sit down and accept it, right?
Fair enough.
Or
Andre, I think you've made the point really well, and I appreciate the call. I'll go off on a tangent now, just because we've got people in the chat that might care. Have you ever been to Speaker's Corner?
No, I haven't.
Would you? We don't know if it'll ever be up and running again. What with the social distancing, has it never tempted you? You're a very eloquent man who likes to argue the toss.
I don't know about that. I don't know about
Well, trust me, you are. You never thought about going down there and saying all of this on a stack of yellow pages or something?
That don't interest me at the moment. I think I've gone from Facebook to a bigger platform now. I think that's what I need to look into. I think I've been dragging my feet a little bit too much with I think, I don't know, something's telling me I need to get onto a bigger platform, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I told you, people in the chat might know more, but I think Instagram is a good one for doing live. I did a live on Instagram with BA, who's in the chat, and then we recorded it and put it up on YouTube, so everyone wins. The YouTube.
I'm looking bigger than that, to be honest with you, but I know what you mean.
Give it a try. All right, Andre, unless there's anything else you want to get off your chest, as it's Speaker's Corner, freedom of speech and all that. If not, I'll let you enjoy your evening.
I hope we talk about this. You know, I've been a bit selective sometimes when we talk. It's you get it out of me sometimes, what I mean to say. But I hope people understand I'm not necessarily against Britain, but at the same time, you know, I do see I do see injustices being done by certain nations, etc. And I think it's important that people need to understand common sense. You know, if you're getting kicked down, there comes a time when you need to realise you need to stop getting kicked down. And at the same time, if you are conquered peoples and you're happy to be American, or you're happy to be French, or you're happy to be a citizen of these countries, then brilliant, go with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if they'll have you, if being a black American is as good as being a white American, then why not go for it? If it is.
Right. Exactly. Well, why break? In that scenario, I'm equal to you. I'm getting treated equal. I'm loved. Why
Hopefully.
break?
Yeah, hopefully.
Why break? You know what I mean? But if I'm not, or my peoples are not, we got a problem here. And you owe it to your children. When you're born, it's our duty to procreate, right? So is it just about having the children and that's it, or is it about making life better for them?
That's
and if
right.
it's your job to make it better for them, then why are you allowing yourself to be one step better than a slave when you could do better and put your effort into your original homeland or whatever and make the place stronger? And reap the rewards of such. So, you know, people need to aware what the situation is. If you're really that comfortable with the status quo, then stick with the status quo. If you're not, then you need to you need to make an effort and make life better for your children's children.
Andre, well said. I'm gonna catch you on Instagram next time, alright?
No problem, my friend.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good for hearing me. Speak to you soon. Have a
Lovely.
good time and stay safe.
Thank you very much. Superb.
Right,
I appreciate it. Yeah, nice one. There goes Andre, former multiple times world Muay Thai champion and now champion of conversation. Triple T is saying injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere, and that's a quote that he's attributing to the late Nelson Mandela. And BA says, I like that there's a platform to talk, although he's disappeared. And Safeguard said that was a good call. Yeah, thank you, Andre. It was a good call. And Dardasha is advising us to say good things or remain silent. That's the way that she was brought up. Yeah, the danger with somewhere like Speaker's Corner is that you will just... Everyone... That's the thing about democracy as well. Everyone has the same right. The racist Nick Griffin supporter has as much right to vote as the middle of the road Tory, Labour, Lib Dem, all the normal ones. And the problem with democracy that Speaker's Corner kind of highlights is that all the people that pitch up at Speaker's Corner are the type of people that will pitch up at the voting booth. And when there's a very low turnout of people to vote at a general election, you risk getting a very extreme form of government, because extremists will always vote, unless they're extreme, for example, extreme Muslims that don't believe in democracy, ironically, and wouldn't want to vote. They're missing a trick there, because they could perhaps vote themselves into power, rather like Adolf Hitler did. Hitler, the greatest fascist of all time, was democratically elected when there was a low turnout of votes because of voter apathy, because extremists will always vote or will always fight for their agenda. So if you don't want to fall into the hands of extremism, get out there and vote for someone middle of the road, or the lesser of two evils, or the local guy that's running as an independent, just to show that we are keeping our elected representatives to account. Unless someone's got a better system. I think Winston Churchill said democracy is not a good form of government, but it's the least bad one that we had, or something like that. And Dardasha is saying there was never freedom of speech. In a way, you were always watched. I think that refers to growing up in the Middle East. And we have to be careful. I intend to be more careful when I receive phone calls from abroad, because I've grown up with the joy of a freedom of speech to a level where I can praise or criticise the government. If I do get a call from some other corrupt country, or I better not slag off their government in case that compromises the position of my caller. So don't be afraid to call if you're in one of those countries. We will try and tread carefully. And BA is saying now they will unplug you, especially if you have a following. And Triple T is saying, if we truly had freedom of speech, we could say anything. Yes, but should we shout fire in a cinema? We have the right to say things, but should we say it? Just because you have the ability to do something doesn't mean that we should do it. And Triple T is saying freedom of speech to a level is limited speech, not freedom of speech. Yeah, I believe in freedom of speech. Don't forget, Julian Assange is in prison still, at risk of contracting COVID-19. I hope he doesn't end up another statistic. And BA is saying we should all shut up. BA, I think you might be right. I'm about to shut myself up and bid you all a good evening. I appreciate you joining me. I'm loving the fact that people are chatting amongst themselves in here, and that really makes me happy, makes me feel like this has all been worthwhile. So thank you for joining me. Spread the word. Don't forget to subscribe to Pavlov's channel and Jordan M's channel. Jordan M is saying good to see me. Good to see you too. Well, good to see your name. I'm not seeing your face, but I'm sure you're as handsome as always. Thank you, Jordan M. There were a few gems at Speaker's Corner amongst all the craziness. And I always laugh to myself when I remember Speaker's Corner, and I remember Jordan M saying every time I come here I end up asking myself why. But yeah, we would always we'd always be there again the next week, and there were things that made it worth it. BA is saying Jordan M, not Peterson. What's wrong with Jordan Peterson? BA, what's your problem with Jordan Peterson? I've been helping a lot of young men come to terms with their problems. That's my Tuberl attempt at an impression of Jordan Peterson, not Jordan M. I wouldn't dream of impersonating him. Ladies and gentlemen, yeah, you would like him, BA, because you are a toxic male. You're not a white male, but you are a toxic male suffering from toxic masculinity. This has been Lessons for Life, and we'll do it all again soon. Thank you for joining me. We were here. We're gone. Laters.